Stephen Curry has spent 17 years carefully crafting his image, the smile, the joy, the unwavering positivity. He's the NBA's most beloved superstar, the player who changed the game without changing who he was. But a private secret has just leaked, something Curry never wanted the world to see. And his reaction to it being exposed? That's the real story. For the first time, the mask slipped, and what was underneath has the entire basketball world reeling.
Curry. Ooh, Williams tried to take it from him. Curry, the handles.
Uh-oh.
Curry. Cross. Sauce.
Stop
Bucket!
it. Stop it.
It started with a single post on a little-known online forum, the kind of place where anonymous users share rumors, speculation, and occasionally, truth. The post claimed to have obtained private correspondence belonging to Stephen Curry. Not emails, not texts, something far more personal. "I have proof that Stephen Curry isn't who he pretends to be," the anonymous user wrote. The smiling, joyful, humble act, it's just that, an act. What I'm about to share will change how you see him forever. Attached to the post were screenshots of what appeared to be private messages that painted a picture of Curry that fans had never seen. Frustrated, angry, deeply resentful of the way his career has been discussed compared to other legends. "I'm tired of being the nice guy," one message allegedly read. "I'm tired of being overlooked. I'm tired of people acting like what I did doesn't matter as much because I had a good team around me. LeBron gets credit for carrying. KD gets credit for scoring. I get system player. It's bullshit." Another message was even more pointed. "Do you know how many sleepless nights I've had thinking about the 2016 finals? Do you know what it's like to be up 3-1 and lose? To have the greatest regular season of all time and have it mean nothing? People think I've moved on. I haven't. I'll never move on." The post went viral within hours. Sports media outlets picked up the story, fans shared the screenshots across every platform, and Stephen Curry, the NBA's most unflappable superstar, was suddenly at the center of a controversy he never wanted. "These messages are fabricated," a Warrior spokesperson said in a brief statement. "Stephen Curry has not authorized the release of any private correspondence, and we have no reason to believe these documents are authentic." But the damage was done. The images were out there, the speculation had begun, and Curry's reaction to the leak, captured on camera just hours later, told a story that no statement could refute. The leak was shocking, but Curry's reaction to it was even more revealing. Subscribe to see what happened when the cameras caught him off guard. The cameras were waiting when Stephen Curry arrived at the Chase Center for practice the morning after the leak. Reporters had gathered in unusually large numbers, their notebooks and recorders ready, their questions sharpened. Curry walked in wearing his usual practice gear, hoodie, shorts, headphones in his ears. His face was unreadable, but his eyes told a different story. Steph looked exhausted, one reporter who was present later wrote. Not physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted, like he hadn't slept, like he had been carrying something heavy for a long time, and suddenly the whole world could see it. When asked about the leaked messages, Curry didn't smile. He didn't deflect with humor. He didn't offer the kind of polished, diplomatic response that had defined his public persona for nearly 2 decades. "I'm not going to comment on something that was never meant to be public," he said, his voice flat. "Those messages are private. They were never intended for anyone outside of the person I was talking to, and the fact that they're out there now, it's disappointing." He paused. The room was silent. "But I'm not going to pretend they're not real." The admission sent shockwaves through the assembled media. Curry had just confirmed the authenticity of the leaked messages, He had just admitted that the frustration, the resentment, the sleepless nights, all of it was real. I've spent 17 years trying to be a certain way, trying to be positive, trying to be a role model, trying to show my kids that you can compete at the highest level without being angry or bitter or mean. And I've meant every bit of it. That's who I am. His voice cracked slightly. But that doesn't mean I don't feel things. That doesn't mean I don't get frustrated. That doesn't mean I don't lie awake at night thinking about the shots I missed, the games I lost, the respect I feel like I never got. The room was silent. Reporters shifted uncomfortably. No one had ever seen Stephen Curry like this. "I'm human," he said. "I've always been human. I've just been good at hiding it. And now I'm not." Curry's raw admissions stunned the basketball world, but the reaction from his peers and from the fans who had idolized him was just as powerful. The next chapter reveals how the league responded to the unmasking of its most beloved superstar.
That's success for us right now. Whoa, who said what?
Right over here. Say it right over here to your right.
Hold on, we're going to have to raise our hand.
Within hours of Stephen Curry's raw, emotional admission, the basketball world fractured. Former players, current stars, and millions of fans took to social media to share their reactions. Some were sympathetic, others were critical, a few were simply stunned. LeBron James, who has had his own battles with public perception, was among the first to reach out privately. According to sources, LeBron texted Curry immediately after the press conference ended. "I know how you feel," LeBron reportedly wrote. "More than you know. Call me if you need to talk." The gesture was significant, given the complicated history between the two superstars. They had faced each other in 4 NBA finals. They had been rivals, competitors, and occasionally allies, but they had never been close. The text suggested a new level of understanding, a recognition that the burden of greatness is heavier than fans realize. Kevin Durant, who has been open about his own struggles with media narratives and public perception, offered a more public show of support. "People forget that we're human," Durant posted on X. "We have feelings, we have doubts, we have moments where we wonder if any of it was worth it. Steph has nothing to apologize for. He's one of the greatest ever. Full stop." Draymond Green, Curry's longtime teammate and closest friend on the Warriors, was characteristically blunt. "Y'all wanted to see behind the curtain? Well, now you have. Steph Curry isn't a robot. He's not a cartoon character. He's a real person with real emotions, and sometimes those emotions aren't pretty. That doesn't make him fake. That makes him human." But not everyone was sympathetic. Skip Bayless, the controversial commentator who has built a career on criticizing LeBron James, turned his attention to Curry. "Finally, the truth comes out," Bayless said on his show. "Stephen Curry isn't the humble, joyful superstar he's pretended to be. He's bitter, he's resentful, he's obsessed with his legacy, and now we have proof." Bayless's comments drew immediate backlash, with many accusing him of kicking Curry while he was down. But they also reflected a broader sentiment among some fans that Curry's carefully crafted image had always been too good to be true. "Nobody is that happy all the time. Nobody is that positive all the time. We knew there was more going on underneath. We just didn't want to see it." Charles Barkley, never one to shy away from controversy, offered a more measured perspective. "I've known Steph for a long time," Barkley said on TNT. "He's a good dude, one of the best. But good dudes have bad days too. Good dudes have frustrations. Good dudes have regrets. That doesn't make him a hypocrite and makes him normal." Barkley paused, letting his words sink in. "The problem isn't that Steph has these feelings. The problem is that we expect him not to. We've put him on a pedestal that no human being can live up to, and now that he's fallen off, we're blaming him for being human." The league's reaction was split, but the most important reaction came from Curry himself and from the people closest to him. The next chapter reveals what happened behind closed doors after the cameras stopped rolling. After the cameras left and the reporters filed out, Stephen Curry retreated to a place he rarely went, the quiet solitude of his own thoughts. The Chase Center had emptied, the practice facility was dark, and Curry sat alone in the locker room, still wearing his practice gear, still processing everything that had happened. He just sat there for an hour, a team security guard later recounted. Didn't move, didn't look at his phone, just sat there staring at the floor. I've never seen him like that. Eventually, his wife Aisha arrived. She had seen the press conference, she had read the social media reactions, and she knew that the man she had married needed her. Aisha is Steph's rock, a source close to the family said. She's always been his rock, but this time it was different. This time he wasn't just frustrated or tired, he was vulnerable in a way he'd never been before. The couple talked for hours about the leak, about the messages, about the years of keeping his feelings bottled up. He told her that he felt relieved, the source continued, that even though the leak was a violation, even though he never wanted those thoughts to be public, there was a part of him that was glad they were out there, because now he didn't have to pretend anymore. The next morning, Curry called his parents, Dell and Sonia. Dell, who had played 16 seasons in the NBA, understood the pressure his son was under better than anyone. Dell told him that every player goes through this. Every great player reaches a point where they question everything, where they wonder if the sacrifices were worth it, where they wonder if they'll be remembered the way they want to be remembered. Dell's advice was simple: don't let them see you bleed. But it was too late for that. The world had already seen Curry bleed. The support from family was crucial, but the most unexpected show of solidarity came from a player Curry had never gotten along with. The next chapter reveals the surprising phone call that changed everything. The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Curry, still awake, still processing, glanced at the screen and froze. The caller ID read, LeBron James. For a moment, Curry considered letting it go to voicemail. He and LeBron had never been close. They had respect, deep, mutual, hard-earned respect, but not friendship. Their relationship had been defined by competition, 4 finals matchups, countless battles, a rivalry that had defined an era. But something told Curry to answer. "You okay?" LeBron asked, his voice low, serious, stripped of the bravado that usually accompanied his public appearances. Curry hesitated. "I don't know," he admitted. "I don't know if I'm okay." LeBron didn't offer platitudes. He didn't try to cheer Curry up. He simply listened. "I've been there," LeBron said, after a long pause. "More times than I can count. The media builds you up, then tears you down. They love you, then they hate you. They want you to be authentic, then they punish you for being real." He paused. "The 2011 finals. That's when I learned. That's when I realized that no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, there would always be people who wanted to see me fail. And once I accepted that, once I stopped trying to please everyone, I was free." Curry listened. He had heard LeBron talk about 2011 before, the mental block, the pressure, the criticism, but he had never heard it like this. Intimate, unfiltered, real. "You're gonna be fine," LeBron continued. "You're Stephen Curry. You changed the game. You have 4 rings. You have nothing to prove to anyone. And the people who matter, your family, your teammates, your real fans, they know who you are." Curry thanked him. The conversation lasted another 20 minutes. When it ended, Curry felt something he hadn't felt in days. Hope. "I never expected that call," Curry later told a confidant. "LeBron and I aren't friends. We've never been friends. But in that moment, he was exactly what I needed. He understood, and he reached out. That meant more than he'll ever know." The unexpected call from LeBron gave Curry a new perspective, but the most important conversation was still to come, the one with himself. The final chapter reveals how Curry processed the leak and what it means for his future. In the days following the leak, Stephen Curry did something he rarely did. He took a step back. He missed practice. He sat out a game. He gave himself permission to breathe. Steph needed time, Steve Kerr explained to reporters, not because he was injured, not because he was tired, because he needed to process, and sometimes processing takes time. Curry used that time to reflect on his career, on his legacy, on the pressure he had been carrying for 17 years. "I've always wanted to be the guy who smiles through everything," Curry said in a follow-up interview, his voice steadier than before. "The guy who makes it look easy, the guy who never lets you see him sweat. But that's not real. That's not sustainable. And pretending that it is, pretending that I don't have bad days, bad moments, bad thoughts, that was exhausting." He paused. "I'm not going to stop smiling. That's who I am. But I'm also not going to pretend that the smile is always real. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and that's okay." The leak, for all its pain, had given Curry something he didn't know he needed: permission to be imperfect. "I've spent my whole career trying to be a role model," he said, "trying to show kids that you can be great without being arrogant, trying to show my daughters that you can compete without compromising your values. And I still believe all of that. I still believe that kindness matters, that humility matters, that joy matters." He smiled, a real smile this time. "But I also believe that it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to wonder if any of it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes the joy real. That's what makes the victories meaningful. That's what makes the journey worth taking." The leak of Stephen Curry's private messages was a violation. It was an invasion of privacy that no public figure should have to endure. But in the aftermath of that violation, something unexpected happened. Curry became more human. The mask slipped, the facade cracked, and underneath, the world found not a bitter, resentful superstar, but a man who had been carrying the weight of greatness for nearly 2 decades. A man who, like all of us, sometimes struggles, sometimes doubts, sometimes wonders if it's all worth it. "I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect," Curry said in his final public comments on the matter. "I never was, I never will be, but I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep competing. I'm going to keep trying to be the best version of myself, even when that version isn't always smiling." And with that, Stephen Curry returned to the court. The Warriors won that night. Curry scored 31 points, and when the final buzzer sounded, he smiled. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. Was the leak an invasion of privacy, or did it reveal an important truth about the pressure we put on public figures? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines.